These lights are horrible. Hello? Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, I haven't got a stand. Okay, everyone. I haven't got a stand, so I'll just have to read it. I'm Diane, MC tonight, and welcome. Nice to see you all on a cold evening. You braved the temperatures to come out. Do we have any visitors tonight? Oh, James, you're not a visitor, you're a returnee. But you're welcome. You're most welcome. Just a health and safety. The fire exits are, either side. Toilets are in the corner of the building, and there's also the front door to exit through. Can you please turn your phones onto silent or off? I've just done mine. Hopefully it doesn't buzz. I enjoyed that critiquing tonight. I did the course, or half of it, with the judging, but I don't think I'm a natural at it. It's quite hard. I think you have to be a bit of a wordsmith to actually be a judge, and there seems to be quite a language that's used to be constructive and not too critical. So I think there's an art to it that I think would escape me. There is definitely an art to it. Anyway, so tonight we'll be looking at the prints that you've already had a quick peep at, judged by James Gibson, who is a previous member, an active member of our club for over 10 years, I believe. Yeah. So I have a bio. I actually have a confession. I forgot to ask him for a bio. So I rang him tonight. He said, sorry, you have to do it yourself. I'm too busy. I'm having my tea. So make it up as you go along. So, hang on a minute. Something I prepared earlier. I went onto his website and I pinched some information. So, as I said, James is a very active member of CPS, involved with many roles within the club. He has a string of awards and qualifications in his photography career. What it says on his bio, he's a keen photographer with a strong interest in wildlife and outdoor photography, with time spent capturing the beautiful landscapes within New Zealand. He's also, this is me adding my little bit as well, he's also interested in the print form of photography and as an art, and is very experienced in printing his own images. He's well-travelled, having spent time ice climbing, whatever that is exactly, in Europe and Canada, and bike racing in Brazil, Indonesia, and Tahiti, so very active. I know James paraglides now, and that's his passion, or the latest passion, perhaps, should I say, and has a camera that he's using up there now to give us a bird's eye view of what you see up there. That shot that you posted the other day offshore, out over the ocean, was terrifying. You were so far out, I just couldn't stand it. It was just terrifying. What's underneath in the ocean? Anyway, I take my hat off to you. I don't think I could jump off a perfectly good hill. So late 20, well, I'm saying, no, I said that, sorry. He also has experience in astrophotography and underwater photography, which I can't say I've seen your images, so you must hide them. Are they on your website? Probably not, okay. James, some of his awards go back to 2016 when he got his APSNZ, which for some reason I've got in back to front form. Anyway, where am I? I've lost, sorry. He won the champion image in the Laurie Thomas in 2017 and a silver medal in the Four Nations competition. 2019, he was champion monoprint at Dunedin Festival and silver medals in the NZ International Salon, both here and overseas, in India, I believe. 2020, bronze medal in the Natex and a bronze medal in the International Pano Awards with his image Coromandel Sunset. He also received honourable mention in the Four Nations that year as well. In 21, James was awarded a gold medal in the PSNZ Sony National exhibition, which I think is that Natex? No? Yeah. With his print Cascade Swirl, with honourable mentions also in the Four Nations. Just a little bit more. James has also achieved an EFIAP/B, which is a bronze level within the Fédération Internationale de l'Art Photographique. Sorry, my French is not very good anymore. James is also involved with the selection process of the PSNZ camera book and has been previously a council member and has been involved with setting up the PSNZ workshop program. So if you'd like to put your hands together and welcome James tonight, and we shall hopefully... Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Diane. So, gosh, it's been a long time since I've been up here. I used to be MC at CPS for a couple of years, so I do tend to talk a lot, so sorry about that. Diane and I are going to go old school, and we're going to bring the prints up one at a time. So there's going to be a little bit of a delay in each print when we work out what comes up on the screen and then go and get it, and then I have to find my notes about it. So there'll be a little bit of skipping backwards and forwards. The reason that I kind of particularly want to do that is because all of my judging was done off the prints. The only time I saw the digital images was when I copy and pasted my notes into the scoring, which you'll all get to read later via Visual Pursuits. And I apologize humbly for all the typos that are in my notes, because I type faster than I press space or that my brain thinks. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. You didn't have to read out every acceptance that I've got over the last... Oh, good. That's lucky. I just want to, before we get too into this, I'm going to make a few little general notes about CPS's your prints tonight. As always, the CPS print presentation standard is exceptionally high. It's really, really great, and I just wanted to congratulate all of the photographers who did enter a print. This is the real end of the photography. This is you creating an actual piece of art, and you've now made yourself into a content creator rather than just a virtual content creator. So well done for making a print. A couple of general points on the quality. The matting, there's quite a lot of images that have slipped slightly in the mats, and I think part of the issue there is that the window size is pretty much exactly the same size that you've made your images. So it's well worth printing 2 or 3 millimeters larger all the way around than the mat, so that you don't end up with like a little slither down the edge. There's also quite a few images, how can I say this? I'm a bit of a geek. I'm an engineer by training, so I do tend to get kind of into pixel peeping occasionally, and there are several images that have come up quite a lot less sharp than I would expect. There might be, there's various reasons for that it could be shutter speed, or it could be very high ISO on your camera, or a soft lens, or something else. Either way, the prints are beautiful, but if the image isn't that sharp, maybe actually consider making a slightly smaller, more intimate image. It doesn't need to fill the frame. Though the smaller you make it, the closer you're going to have everyone wanting to look at it. Also, and finally, you've heard it every time you've been to a judging. This is my opinion only, except for one image, which I discussed with my other half, and we disagreed. So feel free to take all of my comments with a pinch of salt. You have made your image and printed it for yourself because you like it, and you've entered it into a competition for me to look at and showing your soul to the rest of the public. Hopefully you still like the image regardless of what I say, so I hope that I don't offend anyone. My job up here is to make 10% of you really happy and try and justify my opinion to the other 90%. And these days, yellow pages are only virtual as well, so that doesn't help with the padding. Please be nice. All right, let's get going. Lake Ruatanawha reflection. Oh my lordy. Ah, there we go. Wonderful. There's some lovely bands of color running through this image, and we've got the symmetry from the sky, the trees, then the sort of golden hues of the autumn colors, and then back up into the real trees. I enjoyed very much the progression from the taller trees leading me down the line to the smaller pines at the far end. Though for me, the image is actually quite soft. I don't know whether it's I think this one might be just a focus issue, which in the print comes out a little more obviously than it probably would digitally. Also pay attention to your horizons. On this one, it doesn't look quite so much so there, but on the print, the whole image is tilted slightly down, so do pay attention to where your horizons sit. And I get the joy of scoring these. Sorry, that was a 2, not accepted. Fuchsia in pink. All good. Fuchsia in pink. Lovely color choices and a very simple, clean background, which brings that central point of focus right into view. This one again has some sharpness issues. It's a little softer than I'm expecting it to be when you get up close to the print. I don't know if it's had a macro filter or something on that might be causing it. There's also a little bit of banding in the background, which could be like JPEG compression or something. So that nice, soft, graduated background starts to become quite stepped. Again, it's hard to see on the digital, which is why we're judging off the prints. So for this one, I might consider, with the degree of contrast in this, I might actually consider trying to tone it down and go for a sort of softer, more ethereal feel, which you could do by adding a white overlay, really low opacity, and that kind of helps lighten everything up. It makes all the tones softer and more ethereal, which might help with the overall effect. That was a 2, not accepted. Oh, fantastic, thank you. Tree sentinels. 3 sentinels. This is a really interesting image. There's some lovely separation being created between the trees, which are closer to the camera, and then the sort of heavy saturated air, creating that sort of blue haze to the background. So it creates a sense of depth, which works really nicely. There's a lot of ducks sitting on the water, which are these interesting little cookies that help kind of step you through the image. Different lighting, slightly less harsh lighting might have helped create a little bit more mood. So I really like this image. Unfortunately, it's not accepted, and the reason it's not accepted is if you look at the print, something has happened in the printing process, and the right third of the image has a kind of drag, like stretch marks across it, which are not visible in the digital. So. Lovely image. Have another try with the printing, but on this case, not accepted. Curves and lines. Really interesting geometrical study, especially with the shadow repetitions. I particularly liked the curve of the cardboard and the matching curves of the shadow of the acrylic ball, kind of creating these arcs, which counterpoint quite nicely with the diagonal lines of the corrugated card. There's I really like the composition. There's two minor points on this one that I struggle with a little bit. The point of focus is just in front of the ball, and for me that ball is a strong. That's the main element for me and my hero in this image. And the point of focus is just down here, just in front of it, so the ball is a little soft. The other thing I find a little confusing is the color choice. So the image is, well, green. Green we would generally associate with nature or occasionally money, but the other connotation is normally is envy or jealousy. And for me, that doesn't fit so well with a kind of a study of form and shape. And I'm wondering whether actually a black and white version of this would help remove the color connotations and focus it more onto the shapes. So that was not accepted. Winter colors. Yep, perfect. Golden Hour creating some very nice, lovely, warm colors through that hazy air, which again gives us a bit of a separation between the foreground, brighter, more vibrant colors, and that background kind of heading towards blues and shadows. I think compositionally, this image for me is quite busy, and I struggle to find a good point of focus, like a hero in the image. And we've got these two taller trees in the center here, but I find the whole thing quite busy. And I think there's possibly several images in here that simplifying it down either with vignetting or a little bit of selective darkening would help draw my eye into certain areas of the image. The focus and the exposure are lovely, it's just a bit busy. I really like the reflections. Rhesus macaque senses danger at, oh gosh. I didn't quite get through the title there, sorry. Close crop on these monkeys, which kind of helps focuses in on them. I feel personally, I think it's possibly a little too close, and I'd like a little more environmental context. For me, the main issue here is the image is a little soft. So through the whole image throughout there's no actual sharp point in it, and I'm wondering whether that's what's causing it. Possibly just printing it a little smaller would help with this one, because there's a lot of lost detail in the fur on the monkeys. I do very much like the warm tones and the leading lines and that family grouping, creating quite a nice triangular shape where I can follow their eyes. Light of the path. Oh, right there, handy. In context, this one is incredibly sharp throughout, which is really nice. It's a really interesting scene. And this is where, for me, this became a lot more about trying to understand the story. It's a really quite curious, we're presented with these four main lights, which appear to be in the middle of a lake, and a roadway heading out the far end of the lake. Yeah, it's coming out pretty similar on the screen there. And what I was left with was trying to work out where I'm going with this. It's really interesting, but I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm led from one light to the next, but I don't have the context of why or any leading in or out. Possibly a little more light would help kind of give me a sense of why I'm being shown this, and that's the tricky part for me here. There's the foreground rocks on the print have come out very, very dark as well. That's okay, but I kind of want to know why I'm looking at this thing, and yeah, what it is I'm looking at. It's fascinating, but the image as it stands doesn't tell me enough to give me that greater story. In flight. Oh, so this is, oh, print's coming up. In flight. Really interesting. This is kind of, it's fascinating that you've managed to get the helicopter and the Kia in, I think it's Kia, maybe it's not, at just the right distance apart that they appear to be the same size, which is kind of cool. I think the timing is slightly missed on that critical moment of when they would have been facing each other rather than heading away from each other. So there isn't so much of an interaction between those two subjects, and they're quite small in the center of the frame. I imagine that that's because it's pretty hard photographing something a really long way away and trying to get it sharp and in the frame. I do like the composition with the hillside in the background, though. All the lines of the hillside are actually converging. It comes across even much better on the print than up on screen there. But these diagonal lines running through the frame here all kind of converge on the subject, which is quite a really nice touch. In this competition, it was not accepted, but it's a really nice shot and well done for making it. Unfortunately, we're trying to stick by the rules of, or loosely by the rules of, oh, I'm sorry, Heidi, of number of acceptances at CPS. Oh, I've lost the title, Dream State. This was a challenging one. So, whew. This one took me the longest. This took me almost as long as the other 27. I like the technique. I really like the fact that the photographer has made an image which actually uses textures as a part of the image rather than just as an overlay on the image. So that there's a sort of wallpaper pattern that is an integral part of the image, and then we've got textures and this, and then the swan flying overhead. So to create that composition, it's been very expertly done, and I like the use of the sort of this fairly simple tonal range of the image. It's all quite creamy browns and pastels, which works really nicely. The issue for me is the narrative. So I'm really struggling. I really struggled with why I'm being shown this swan and how the elements of the image fit together. And perhaps the photographer can come up and we can debate this one. So for me, the intent of the image hasn't come across strongly, and that's what's letting this down rather than anything technique-wise. It's beautifully presented, it's lovely paper, and it's been really nicely created, but I've missed the point on the story, and as the judge, I know that is my primary function, is to try and understand that, and if it hasn't come through, I'm not sure it's going to come through for other people either. Try a different judge. Woolshed remains. There's some lovely texture on the timber in the woolshed, and this sort of reasonably soft lighting inside the shed has been used really nicely by the photographer to to give us all that textural detail, and it comes through really nicely. The gap in these columns, so we've got these central roof columns heading off down there, and the gap between the first and the second one here gives me a route into the image. But I head into the image, and there's nothing there that kind of holds me. I'm kind of looking around, trying to find where my main subject is. And I mean, for me, the interesting things that pop out are these corrugations, corrugated iron falling from that sort of sagging roof there. I don't find that main subject, so my eye comes back out, and what tends to happen is that it rushes down these leading lines here, which go into gradually softer focus and out the side of the frame. So I think that the exposure has been captured really well. I like it's challenging lighting in these locations, but I think this image is looking, for me, is looking for something to hold me in that frame, give me a point of context, a point of reference to look at. But well done capturing it in challenging lighting conditions. The Way. Oh, I've even got typos in my abbreviated notes. Terrible. This one looks much better on the print than on the screen. So make sure you come up and have a look at the prints whilst we've got them up here. This is a great thing about print night. It's a very dark and somber mood to this print. Actually comes out quite a lot lighter on the digital there. And I do like the sort of exposure and processing choices that have been made to make this image. I think perhaps some more dynamic lighting and some clouds in the sky might have really helped add some drama and interest to the image, because a large portion of the frame is just blank grey sky. Also, do watch out for halos when lightening and darkening objects. You can just see it on here. Our two little subjects have got a little bit of a black glow. What's the opposite of a glow? Around them, which comes out quite obviously because they have such high visual weight in the frame. Compositionally, I really enjoyed this image. I think that there's lovely weighting to where those subjects are. The lead down along that little spit of pebbles, and then the building on the sort of dilapidated building on the end is really interesting. But in this competition, not accepted. Score 3. First of the acceptances. Autumn at Wanaka Lake. Oh, and conveniently, it starts with A too. That makes it easier to find in my notes. It's all good. Very nicely captured, very classic New Zealand image. We've all seen that Wanaka tree so many times in various different ways. So, and I think the photographer's done a really nice job of capturing this scene. The leading lines from the ripples and the leading lines of the trees all focus us in on the tree. It's nicely focused with the Buchanans in the background, and has come out very, very neatly on the screen. Lovely lighting. To elevate this more, I would have liked to see something more of the photographer in the image. This is an iconic New Zealand scene, and as a result, we have seen it shot from this location so many times, and it's that kind of trying to find, if you can, a new way to photograph the same scene that can really elevate something, show us something unique and new. However, that said, it's been very nicely handled. It's beautifully sharp and would look great on the wall. Hill curves. Again, some lovely highlights on the the crests of each range of the hills there. This has been nicely printed on some matte paper. It's very clean and well presented. A great sharpness throughout, right from the foreground all the way to the top of the range of what feels very much like Linda's Pass, but I don't know. For me, a couple of images here, similar sort of issue. Just wanted to suggest maybe considering taking a polarizer. And it can be really useful for increasing contrast in creating blue skies, but the other thing that it does quite nicely is it can cut out glare, or cut out haze, sorry, not glare, which can, on these hazy, stagnant days, can kind of start to interfere. Of course, not using one gives you recessions and such like more, which can be quite nice. For me, lovely image. The issue for me on this one is the composition. We've got this huge expanse of blue space with nothing in it, and my eye tends to jump from one ridge to the next, and then it travels up along that ridge to the peak, and then just keeps going. And I would really like something to pull me back into the frame. Maybe a red tractor or a red boat. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, accepted. Dorothy Falls. Again, lovely presentation on a lovely matte paper with some really good detail in the water in the center of the falls. I think what I'm seeing in the print here is there's an awful lot of beautiful detail in the rock and the lighter sections of the print, and the periphery has got quite dark and gone quite flat. Now, my suspicion there is that it's a soft proofing, like how can I explain this? A lot of matte papers in particular have quite a narrow color gamut. So subtle changes in very dark colors can often just block out and become one tone, and that feels like that's what's happened here, particularly through the left and right hand side of the image. There's not as much detail there as I'm looking to find. So it's been really nicely presented. I think maybe a little soft proofing to tweak the edges of the frame might help really bring this out even more. Compositionally, I really enjoyed this. I like the slightly wider sort of 5:4 kind of aspect ratio of the print. The waterfall feels really comfortable in the middle of the frame. It's been very nicely created, so well done. Boy from Kumjung, Nepal. How did I do, Alistair? How's Kumjung? Okay, cool. Oh, far out. Excellent. Yes, these are all acceptances. Yep. I really enjoyed the warm tones in the image. They kind of help accentuate the story. Even though this is a classic portrait, I'm being told a lot about a sort of ethnic Asian, Middle Eastern feel. I'm not as well traveled as I could be. And the warm tones kind of help reinforce that sense of kind of dusty air and the smell of spices and things. So I think that works really well. Again, this image is slightly soft, so there is lots of detail in there, but all of the parts of the print aren't quite as sharp as I would like them to be. So again, maybe a smaller print might have worked better. I really liked, for this one for me, I really liked the engagement with the subject, and it felt like a nice conversation between me as the viewer and this young boy that I'm looking at. Yeah, very enjoyable image. open spaces. Oh, I can't find O in the alphabet. There we go. All right, this is cool. This is a naturally occurring triptych. I think that's fantastic. So well seen. We've actually got, I think in the, maybe it's just where I'm stood. Hold on a second. Yeah. In the print, I think this section here is very slightly smaller, which sort of evens up the weighting of it really nicely. I like the fact that each panel of the triptych is slightly different, and gives me something different to look at in each part. So I really enjoyed this image. I like that combination of the natural kind of these two young kids looking out above all that inversion and the natural side of it, and then the angular composition of the roof and the vertical lines works really well. My only criticism on this one, those vertical lines are certainly on the print are not vertical, and the horizon is not horizontal. It's got quite a slope to it. So straighten it up. Otherwise, lovely, very well seen. Tiana waterfront Maori carving. Lovely exposure and lighting on this. Really excellent focus and a really good detail that you can really kind of study in and get in close onto that image. I had quite a long internal debate on this one about the degree of photographic artistry versus depicting someone else's art, and I think it's a very tricky one to kind of balance here. I think that for me, this one manages to just sneak onto that side of there's enough of the photographer and that use of light, natural light, and the angle that's been used to fill the frame to give this, to elevate this above just a representative image that of that master carver's piece, which is why it's accepted. The detail is stunning, and to make this go further, I'm kind of trying to work out how you would make this more about your photographic journey and less about the carving. The detail is fantastic, though. I'm not shouting at you all too much, am I? Okay, good. A flame. Ah, I can find A. Excellent. Matches my shoes. So for a still life, I think this one's got a huge amount of sense of motion and dynamism, and I think that's pretty much exclusively coming through from the color, and those vibrant, bright yellows and oranges and reds come across really well and bring this image to life. This image, similar to one earlier, on the print, there's quite a lot of banding in the background, which could be JPEG faceting again. And the other thing, I believe that this is a focus stacked image. I might be wrong, but there are some weird areas, in particular here, and there's a few more through the center, where a part of the image just randomly goes from being nicely sharp to massively out of focus. And I think there's possibly a bit of a masking issue with focus stacking, perhaps, going on there. The color and the composition won out massively, though, over these minor technical things, so that was accepted. Barbed wire fence. Really nice selective focus on this one. The soft, subtle background blurring away into the distance gives me kind of a bit of context without actually overwhelming the image, and that sunset kind of warm autumnal colours comes across really nicely. I enjoyed that a lot. It's a very simple composition. We've got the waratah, the line of barbed wire, and then the what's it called? Sort of chicken mesh netting underneath. And for me, I kind of want more. My eye tends to, I go straight to that waratah, and then I work along the barbed wire, and I'm kind of looking for an anchor on that barbed wire, something to hold me in the frame. And otherwise, for me, it's very much about that. I can tell what it is. It's a very literal representation of a section of fence line with some lovely colours, and I want something to hold me in the frame a little longer. But it was still accepted. It's beautifully sharp and very nicely presented. Urban window, high acceptance. Am I allowed to ask whose this is? Is this yours? Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to be so much more brutal now. It's very precise compositionally, which I really liked. You've got this kind of this flat window, which is perfectly positioned with all these perfectly straight lines in that corner, and then this bizarre kind of textural pseudo building shape in the background behind it, which I mean, I've described it as a graphic Warhol-esque creation. I don't. You can, if you don't like Andy Warhol, then yes, I agree with you. So two main things here. It's a fascinating image. The lack of shadows in the image makes it feel very flat and two-dimensional, makes it much harder for me to journey into the different layers of the image. It actually almost works better on screen. The background on the screen sort of drops back a little bit and the window pops forward, which I didn't really find on the print. The main thing for me is I think this is part of a series of images rather than a standalone image in its own right. And I think as a body of work, it would have a lot more impact than it does like this. But it's still got high acceptance, so, you know. Well done, Ian. Water drops. You remember I said at the start that this is all my opinion except for one image? I think it should be that way up. But my girlfriend disagrees, so clearly the photographer's right and I'm wrong. For me, and yeah, it's a gorgeous. I love the little rainbows of colours in all the water droplets. I think they're really interesting, and the way the intersecting lines and the water droplets all work together. We've got these kind of really interesting little kind of clusters through it. When I flipped it the other way up, I kind of felt that everything was drawing me up to this focal point here, and the droplets feel like they're rising up more like hot air balloons than water droplets, but they're not water. Then they don't work like water droplets. So, you know, you take it, you can choose. But I really enjoyed the interplay of the lines. The composition is really nice, and that sort of so many interesting points of focus, and my eye just works around them, staying in the frame. So it works really nicely. Last light. There's some lovely warm tones in the print on this. It's really nice. And a lovely leading composition from the nice sort of weighted, heavy bass. That darker bass of the image kind of grounds it really nicely. And then my eyes follow along the edge of the beach line and the breaking waves, and just follow into it to the mountains in the background, where there's that there's enough shape there that I know that they're mountains. This is there's these three little figures, which kind of, from where I'm stood here, actually have a lot more dominance on the screen than how they come up on the print. And I feel that the visual weight of those three figures, they're so small on the print that I'm not sure that they actually work as an anchor. They're almost a distraction from that leading line and the soft flow along the beach line to the mountains in the background. It's a really nice technique, that sort of the mixing of static images and ICM. It can work really, really well. In this case, it's very nicely done, but I wonder where, I'm just left wondering whether it would actually be nicer without them. But this is a personal choice, but I'm the judge, so I get to make these personal choices, so that's great. So high acceptance. Tortured. This is really nicely printed, this one. Lovely choice of the paper and the matting, and the fact that the matting is actually separating the three images of the triptych rather than being just white lines on the paper. It works really nicely. I'll start off with the negative. You know the whole shit sandwich thing. Say something nice, say something crap, say something nice at the end. So we'll skip that, and we'll do the crap bit first, and then we'll just go on to all the compliments. This image here, the one on the right-hand side's a little soft. It feels like it's got a little bit of motion blur on it, which is a slight distraction from the other two. But I really liked the tones, that tortured, twisted, broken sense, and you're left kind of, you know that it's driftwood, but it feels like bones or something. It feels quite disconcerting, and the selection of shapes has worked really nicely to create a flow through the images, but also kind of encapsulated, almost like brackets at the ends. Works really nicely, and printed on the matte paper, it's lovely. And now we're on to the honours. I hope it's okay, I was quite generous with honours. But I got to the point where all the honours images stood out hugely as a group, and I had all of them together on the kitchen work surface, because it's where the best lighting is in the house for some reason. And they're all beautiful images. My best in show was purely chosen on a kind of, well, which one would I hang on the wall? So it's the best in show, but all of the honours and the best in show I thought were beautiful images, and it's very much a personal choice at this point. Anyway, delicate blues. Interestingly, having been going on about sharpness in the images, this one has a very, very subtle, soft depth of field. There's virtually nothing sharp in here, and it works really well. That very soft, almost high key feel to it is kind of what I was getting at with that fuchsia and pink image. It is delicate. There are some blues. There's a few little hints of other colours in there, but it's it's just enough detail to really draw you in and look at the veins on the leaves. There's plenty of space around it. It's been nicely presented, though I think there's a little gap in the mat down this edge here. But it's, yeah, it's just a lovely, soft, subtle, quiet image, and works very nicely. Savvy in grunge. Obviously, I would struggle to put this one on the wall, not having any connection to the young girl there, and that would be a bit weird. But but photographically, stunning, really nice pose. I like the scene creation that's been used here. I mean, it's called Savvy in Grunge, but we've got this industrial scene that's been created just by using the side of a shipping container. It's a really simple composition. I even spent time trying to work out how she was doing this without falling over, and then worked out that she's actually leaning on the shipping container. But the pose is great. The triangular form of her body and that slight tilt of the head works really well. Her arms are all focusing us in on those eyes, which are just, it's a really fascinating expression on her face as well. It's kind of attacking and yet vulnerable at the same time. It works really nicely. The diffuse soft lighting helps bring out, helps create some separation between her and everything else, and lets me look at all the detail in her face and in her clothes. And it's, yeah, it's just really nicely presented. There's a reasonable vignette on the image, but it's soft and well feathered, and all it does is draw me right into the center of the frame. So I was very happy with this and really enjoyed looking at this one. Uratiti Beach. Am I allowed to guess who took this one? There's dust spots in this image. Oh yeah, sure they are. Yeah, this was lovely as well. Initially, it comes across as quite a limited color palette, which I tend to quite like. It comes across as these sort of blues, the blues of the lake and the mountains, and then this brown of the foreground. And then the more you look at it, the more you see all these, there's all sorts of other little sections in it. There's some little kind of green patches in here, and then there's pinks in the sky and in the background that start to come out, and it's almost like a time delay in the picture. The more you look at it, the more you see. The texture works really well. I find this little section up here maybe a little heavy, and the rest of it is so complementary to that motion movement that we've got in the highlights in the water droplets here, and that kind of sense of movement in an image that's actually quite soft and quiet is quite a nice contradiction. And those little bright points in the water and in the foreground help hold me in the center of the frame, or sort of this not the center, you know what I mean, this bit over here. Interestingly, the foreground is actually brighter than the rest of the image, which is a little unusual, but I'm not kind of falling out of it because that bottom edge is, pardon me, is darkened a little bit, so it's kind of, it helps me stay in the interest and explore the detail in that foreground before my eye then kind of moves back into the mountains. This is definitely one to come and have a look at the print on. The colors are so much nicer on the print up here. There, I found 2 dust spots. There might be a third. Your challenge is to spot them as well and then point them out to Ian later. Arctic ice shelf. Yeah, this one looks as good on the screen as it does on the print as well. There's beautiful sharpness in this image, and that little bit of lighting on the front face of the ice shelf there just really brings you straight into that area. It's slightly challenging because we've got this one subject, which is this strip through the center of the image of the front face of the ice shelf. And that's been positioned almost bang on in the middle of the frame, so you could consider it as splitting the image into two halves and that kind of not being there. But I really liked the textural difference between the sort of stark, gritty foreground of the sea, and then we've got this incredibly soft, kind of hazy cloud that's just forming, presumably from evaporation or something off the ice shelf there, and removes all of the distant background. So it creates like a juxtaposition between the softness of the cloud above and that sense of infinity of ice. Gosh, wouldn't that be nice? We'll see how long it lasts. Against the foreground sharp grittiness of the sea. And I actually think that balance worked really well for me. I really liked it. I don't do natural history judging, but I am on the honours board for the Nature Society, and I'd love to see more images like this in nature competitions. I don't know if it's technically eligible for nature, but it's so nice to see something different like this. Oh, well done, the photographer. And finally, dried cosmos. Lovely choice of paper and a really nice presentation on this one. It's a shame there's a scratch on the print, but I'm going to totally ignore that. Prints get scratched in competitions, and it happens. It's unfortunate. I love the attention to detail in this image. As I said, with all the honours, I found all of those. I think there's 6 total, including this one. They're all stunningly beautiful images. This is the one I would hang on the wall. The attention to detail in the masking is really nice between the texture. It helps that the petals stand out. There's the complementary colours, the purples and the browns are just spot on. Background has been created to set this off, and compositionally found it very, very pleasant indeed. So congratulations to the photographer. And that's it. If anyone does have any questions about anything that I've said, please feel free to come up and chat to me afterwards. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully it's been useful to you all somehow. But yeah.
Thank you, James. That was excellent. I hope everybody really enjoyed that. It's actually nice to have the judge here. So if you've got anything to say, pin him down later. Yeah, we won't let him escape. Okay, so are you happy to present the certificates? Otherwise, yeah? Or unless you want to sit, or do you want to, would you like Diana to? Would you like to? Okay. All right, let's get everything ready. Sorry, there's just me here tonight doing this, so wearing 2 hats. And I have no idea whether these are in right order. I did try, but clearly, I don't know, I must have been looking at the wrong page. Okay. All right, so, hang on, let's just make sure.
Forward, you can check.
Yeah.
This is Lake Wanaka.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's a good thinking, thank you. I'm glad we've got somebody here that knows what they're doing, that helps. Okay, so we have Autumn at Lake Wanaka and Yuan. It's an acceptance. Congratulations. Thank you for that, I'm half asleep tonight. We have Hill Curves, Neroli Keating. Dorothy Falls, Paul Williams. Boy from Kumjung, Nepal, Alistair Phillips.
I never would have guessed that.
No. And we have Open Spaces, Toby Mears. Come on down, Toby. Congratulations.
Good job, mate.
Well done. Well done, Toby.
Is it a selfie?
No. I wondered that myself, actually, whether he was in it. We have Tiana Waterfront, Mary Carving, Karen McConaughey. A Flame, Jane Barnes.
I never would have guessed this one.
Barbed wire fence, Diana Anders.
Yes, this one too.
Want to go over? Urban window in walls. Come on down.
Good job. Branching out.
No, he has got a series of them. Have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no,
But it
yeah.
fits.
Water drops, Diana Andrews. Actually, sorry, they were the high acceptance. Started the high acceptances. Sorry, I'm not the best at this. I need Janine. She's all over it. Last Light, Penny Kennedy, high acceptance. We have Tortured, Paul Williams, high acceptance. Delicate Blues, that's me. Thank you. Savvy in Grunge, Dawn Kirk.
Good job. Nice work. Just because you're going on.
Honours Uratiti Beach, Ian Walls.
We're out of COVID now, Ian.
And honours again, Arctic Ice Shelf, Karen McConaughey.
Nice.
And that's me, I'm afraid, again. Surprise!
Congratulations.
I don't know about the scratch, I have no idea.
Do we pin this on?
Oh, you can, yeah, best in class. Feels like Crofts. Okay, well, that was great. And this is just a token of our appreciation for coming tonight. Thank you very much, James. Okay, God, wrong bit of paper. Ta-da. I've just got a couple of things to mention tonight before we go. Next week we have the Set Challenge intro information night. Is that right, Ian, to start with? At 7, okay. And then 8 o'clock we have a Zoom session from a UK photographer, Alistair Ben from the UK. And I think that's been organised by Ian and John Ben, who has left and now in the North Island somewhere. Wednesday the 17th, the club rooms are not available. And Diana has organised. Oh. Yes. Oh. Oh, they're not. Okay. Okay, so it's at Daphne's Restaurant, Rickerton Road, and we're trying for Thursday night now. That's the 18th, if anyone's interested. Should we just email you directly or text you? Yeah, if you're interested. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Diana's putting out a very comprehensive list every week now, so we don't really need me to read all the way through it. So you pretty much should be up to date with everything that's happening. Competition's closing soon. 24th of July, Natural History prints. 31st of July, Open Print 4. And 7th of August, the AV hand-in. I don't know if anyone's doing any of those, for those of you who are. So I think that's it. Has anybody got anything they'd like to talk about or mention? Ian, anything? Nothing? No. Hang on. Yes, of course we can. Yeah, okay. Well, should we start with that one, go backwards? Okay. I have a box full of dead flowers. What can I say? I just like them. I love the crunchy bits. So and the shapes. I think I enjoy them more than the fresh ones, which, as my daughter is a florist, really annoys her. But yeah, I just enjoy playing with that. I'm still not 100% happy with it myself, but it's one of those images you play with, and I thought, no, I've got to stop. And so, yeah, but anyway, thank you for your kind comments. And I don't know how it got scratched, but as you say, that does happen. So anyway, can we go backwards to the next image? Tell us when you were on safari in the Arctic.
Well, actually, I was in the Arctic, and it was 8 years ago, and it was long before I learnt about camera raw files, so it's a straight out JPEG from quite a while ago.
Okay, next. Ian, come talk about your dust spots. I don't know. I reckon they were deliberate. Yeah.
The dust spots are part of the texture. Yes. This is Uratiti Beach. It's up in the North Island. We took the camper up to Cape Reinga, so this is up on the one side and back down the other. Uratiti Beach is just south of Whangarei, and there was little waves splashing. It's just slow camera wavy stuff that I tend to do with a texture thrown across the top of it, what I tend to do. So.
No wax. Yes, no wax, no. But Ian, your texture, what is that? I'm just trying, is that a painted wall or something, or a texture of sandstone or something? Yeah, no, it's nice. You can see it in different parts. Yeah, I like textures myself. So next one. Dawn.
So this is just at a workshop, and the model obviously knew what she was doing. I just love the look on her face and the eyes, so direct, and I just played around with it. Took out some things, put in some things, and vignette. Yep.
Good day. Okay, thank you. Next. Oh, okay. All right, this was taken with a lens I bought a little while ago. I've been hunting for one. It was a second-hand lens. It's a 180 macro, and that is one petal on a hydrangea with a very shallow depth of field and a plastic bag over the lens with a hole in. But I think the hole must have moved. You can't really see any focus on there. But I really liked it. I'm just playing at home at the moment with things, but it's a lens. Someone suggested it to me on a workshop. I forget who it might have been now, and I've been searching for one ever since, and I really like it. So it's an old-fashioned one. I don't think they still do it much, Canon, but I enjoy it. So you get that nice soft depth, and it means you can shoot further away from your subject, so you can shoot through things. So I'm still learning what to do with it. Anyway, thank you. Was there any more? Was that? Oh, Ian's. Was that? Is that it? Okay, thank you. Just remain to thank everybody for Dennis for opening tonight and for the supper as well. And who's at the back? I think we had everybody there. Oh, yeah, there we go. The boys at the back. I'll just call them the boys at the back. Yeah, they're all at the back. That's good. And who else do we have that's done anything? Alan for doing the pushing the buttons on the laptop. Thank you for that. Sorry? Toby for helping me, yes. At least he was more organised than I am. I do apologise for the mess. And thank you again to James, and hope to see you next week, and drive safely. Thank you for coming.